Welcome to another episode of the Interesting Podcast. I'm Ed Parcaut, and today we're for a special treat. We're sit down with Anthony Mink. We're going to unpack his journey from humble beginnings and bankruptcy to building an 8-figure men's grooming brand. We're going to dive into the power of overcoming failure, building community, and evolving the changing market. Tune in for inspiration, candid stories, and real talk on what it takes to create lasting success. Anthony Mink, thank you so much coming on the Interesting Podcast today. And we'll just call you Mink from here forward because that's what everybody else calls you. So we'll just go with that. Thanks for showing up.
Let's do it, man. Ed, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and like always, we always have a long conversation before we get going. And now I have to remember what we said so we can bring it back into the podcast. I always think, I should never do that. You should. But the Interesting Podcast is about your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest defeats. I know from, and hopefully it was right, my assistant, which I call my assistant Chad, which is Chat GPT sometimes, said that you went from bankruptcy to building an 8-figure brand. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the journey for sure.
Well, I mean, we all have to make mistakes and we all have to learn from them. It's not an overnight success. It's years and years. I interviewed the guy that brought UGG to America, Brian, I can't think of his name right now, but people don't understand. He lost the company halfway through building that up. And, and those things that people only see, I should say, they don't care how hard you struggle. They only care where you got to. They don't care how you got there. They don't want to know how hard it is. They just want to know that other part. And it's important that you have to know it's not overnight successes. You have to make mistakes in order to get there. And I kind of want to go through that with you if you're good with that.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. So you went to college or didn't go to college?
No, I actually had a basketball scholarship, played my freshman year, got injured, and then ended up taking a year off, and that led to never going back. So, at first I was like, I don't know if this is a good thing, but now that I have, maybe made it a little bit, had a little bit of success in business, I think it's a badge of honor now.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to get at you. College isn't. For some people, college is just college. I mean, I got my bachelor's and master's when I was in the Navy, and can I say I used it to this day? No. I remember when they were like, remember the quadratic equation, you're going to use it forever. I've never used that stuff. I use more sales. I'm a sales guy. And I did have one class in college that was on sales, and something from that I've used forever and actually created another podcast off of it. What that is ACEs. ACEs, my instructor said, remember 4 aces and a joker. Attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile is what you bring to the table in sales. That joker is that unique ability that you have naturally or something that you learn. I sold by the phone for 18 years, had no idea I had a deep voice. But it makes so much sense why I got so many more packages back and I had such a higher closing ratio than anybody else.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Really cool.
And I learned that when I put headphones on in 2018 when I started a radio show here locally in Modesto. And I was like, wow, I have a deep voice. I had no idea. I could have really used that if I would have known that. So when did you get in the business field? I mean, when did you realize? Let me back up one more sec. Family entrepreneurs at all? Anybody in your family?
No, my dad cut trees down for a living. I grew up in Oregon, a small town, about 6,000 people. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I guess you could loosely call her an entrepreneur in the sense that when my dad lost his job in the logging industry due to some regulatory changes, she started doing odds and ends and cleaning houses and trying to just be scrappy and hustle and figure out a way to make money. But very, very humble beginnings, grew up when my parents had a lot of debt and a lot of financial struggles, and I witnessed that. And the one thing I knew growing up is I didn't want to experience that. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But from like 20 to 25, essentially, I started working almost full time when I was 16, going to school, working, etc. And up until about 20, I did everything from fast food to restaurants to door-to-door home security sales, mortgages, real estate, tried a bunch of different shit. And ultimately, I realized I just really didn't like working for anybody else. And that's when I kind of came up with this idea. If I could work online, in theory, this was 2009, 2010, I could work when I want, where I want, and I wouldn't have to report to anybody. And that idea of autonomy and some sovereignty or some freedom is really what inspired me. And so I just went to the internet and typed in how to make money online. And bought books and training courses and ended up going to little local networking events for internet marketing and kind of just failed forward. Honestly, it took me about 2 years to go from having no clue of what making money online looked like to making my first dollar online. And then from there, I was smart enough to know if it was working.
Hold on, stop right there. All right, so
okay,
I'm going to bring up my radio. So on radio, you have a minute, max 3 minutes to answer a question. So that way it's a conversational thing. So you're going to keep going and going and going. And then we're not going to. So what did you make your first dollar in online?
Affiliate marketing.
Okay. And then what were you selling affiliate marketing? Because that's a huge word. I mean,
yeah. So
there's a difference between 2010. That was 2010.
2011. Yeah.
Affiliate marketing and today affiliate marketing.
Yeah. So then I was doing lead generation for different promotion companies.
Okay.
So for every lead that I got, I created for them, I'd get paid $1.50, $2. And so I was essentially just spending money on Facebook ads very, very early on, paying 50 cents a dollar a click, making $1.50, $2 in commissions, and just making the arbitrage between the difference.
And so that was in the beginning. That's when everybody started learning about Facebook ads. And then it got to all the way to before the pandemic or during that, where people were everybody was trying to get you to buy Facebook ads, and all these agencies popped up, and then it destroyed everything. So how long you do that, the 2011 thing?
So for the first 5 years, I did different affiliate marketing, generating different leads for different vendors, started selling different products, supplements, skincare. Essentially, I taught myself how to do paid media. And to your point, like this was very early on in the beginning of kind of the social media boom and craze, and advertising was really new on the social media platform. So I had the opportunity to have a first mover's advantage, if you will. And so for 5 years, I spent just advertising different products and making the commission. And that's ultimately what then led me to where I am today.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's probably a huge leap what you just did there. You want to just go right there, but all right. So what took you out of affiliate marketing? And the reason I bring this up, because we talked about how I said in the beginning, how I'm just my industry and what I've done. And I'm just tired of how I want more of the passive income, more of the stuff, which I didn't, when I was younger and I did stuff, I didn't want that. I wanted, because I could kill it and make a ton of money, and it was still rolling in. It was no big deal, but things have changed and it's a little bit different now. They could, interest rates 5% higher. It's very unaffordable. Only 40% of people in California can actually afford a house. That limits people being able to buy homes. So, yeah. So my question is, I think what kind of stopped you from doing what you were doing in that and got you to where you are now?
Yeah. In the 5 years of doing different affiliate marketing, what I realized is I was always promoting someone else's product or someone else's company, and the companies would change, the products would change. There was a lot of things that were outside of my control in that environment. And I had realized I generated a cash producing skill, which was this idea to profitably pay for media. And I became fascinated with the idea of applying that skill to my own products, my own services, so that I could build an asset and then ultimately turn that asset into some type of financial security, wealth, etc.
All right. And so how did you do that?
In 2016, I started a company called Live Bearded. So the idea was simple. I had a really good buddy.
Beard? Is that
what's that
name? How did the name come out?
Yeah. Well, at the time, beards were becoming more of a trend, and it was kind of the cool kid thing to do. And I didn't want to build a business that was based on a trend. I wanted to go after an identity. I wanted to target a very specific demographic of people. And so in my marketing, I had most of my success when I went after a particular identity, passion, interest, hobby. So looking at grooming, I mean, there's only so much you can do with shampoos, conditioners, body washes. It's not very sexy, right? It's just like a pretty commoditized industry. So my perspective was, how do I turn this into an identity? And then how do I speak to that identity in a unique and interesting way? And so Live Bearded just was kind of born from that idea of how do we market to a group of guys that differentiate themselves from everybody else, that kind of embody that identity. That was one part of it. And then the other part of it was like the name was available on Google and it was available on all the socials. So there's like a little bit of an art and a science to it. But a really good friend of mine was growing out his beard for the first time. I didn't have one. It was No Shave November. And he started getting all these compliments and guys were saying stuff to him. And he was like, have you ever thought about maybe starting a grooming company? Like beards are becoming really popular. And he'd been a buddy of mine for 10 years at that point. So one thing led to another. We had a lot of conversations about what it might be like to work together and what we would do. And that ultimately inspired this whole idea of starting the business together and working on selling products to bearded dudes.
And you've been doing that for how long now?
Coming up on, we just celebrated our 9-year anniversary.
Wow. And how different is it compared to 9 years ago?
Man, it's
market-wise. I know your business is different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still online, right? It's still online.
Yeah. It's entirely different in the sense of then the industry or the category was brand new. So it just even like looking at comments, people would be like, this stuff is for pussies. Like the only thing I use on my beard is motor oil. You bunch of, like it was like a lot of macho men were like hating on us and talking down to us and saying it was a fad or a trend, if you will. And so there in the beginning, it was a lot about educating the market, really trying to talk to guys about how important grooming was and the different, reasons why you might want to do that. Fast forward over the years, the competitive landscape has changed tremendously. All the big players from Old Spice to Unilever to, the big guys that are legacy brands, they've all now entered the space. So competition has definitely gone way up. A lot of competing products, a lot of knockoff products, but I would say the biggest thing is it's more standardized now, right? People think of beard care just like you think of deodorant or shampoo. It's just part of the routine. So on one hand, the market has become more mature and it's there's less selling or convincing that you need to do. Now you just need to build trust and rapport and demonstrate why you are essentially a great company to do business with.
Yeah, because people don't realize, I mean, with the way beards are, how unsoft they are, and there's stuff you can do. I mean, it was all new. I mean, people had no idea. I mean, beards have been around forever. And I think they go through cycles, but I see more and more now because I think the fact that you can keep them groomed and you can do everything else.
Yeah, 100%. And there's little things like I have eczema, and so I've got naturally dry skin. And so whenever I grow out my beard, the skin underneath my beard would get really, really dry and irritated, or it would itch a lot. And that is actually because the hair is like changing the oily, like components of your skin. So that's why beard oil exists, to put it on so you're actually solving a problem. And I think that's also what makes the experience of growing a beard a little bit better, if you will. So more guys want to have it and it's more normal or whatnot. But it's definitely been an interesting journey to see the evolution of the market.
And I was surprised that with the people that were complaining that I use motor oil, you didn't come up with a whole line of motor oil and other stuff for those people. Or did you?
We didn't lean into that too much. I think we probably could have leaned into it more. We did do this video where it was like non-celebrity mean tweets. If you've ever seen like the mean tweets that celebrities read where people are like saying really hurtful things to them. And we got like 15 or 20 different ones and different guys on my team would read them. And, they ranged from very, very derogatory to just downright ridiculous. And so we leaned into that a little bit and kind of made fun of this idea of how people would criticize us in the comments, but it was all in good fun.
Yeah. Now you said you're in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a dry climate, majorly dry climate. It's like Utah, how dry it is. I just recently was in Hurricane doing the Bryce and then Zion hiking. And I was like, wow, I'm in California, Modesto, and people think it's dry here. No, I grew up in Colorado where, if you buy a house there, they give you chapstick and lotion for as part of your home. Is your gift for your housewarming. It's so bad. And I could just imagine how it is with the beard. So, when you said eczema, I'm like, I could just see just in general, because my hands were so dry. And we did some, not to get off subject, but we went out razor out on some sand dunes that were in Hurricane. And the guy that was our guide, his hands were so dark and blue and just, you could just see how dry they were and how he just didn't. And it's like, wow. Dryness is huge. So if you got a beard in dry climate, you really need more stuff than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Or am I wrong? I mean, because people in
Well,
Texas, do they need it as much as they do
yeah,
in Arizona?
I think climate definitely has an impact. And then honestly, just overall, some people have more oily skin, some people have more dry skin, just your natural body. It varies from person to person. And then definitely climate can have a big impact as well.
Yeah, I'd shave mine because I get tired of how gray I look. My wife wants me to grow it out. I'm like, I don't want to look that old. I know I'm old enough as it is.
Yeah, we say you got to embrace the wisdom whiskers. You earned those things, you just got to embrace them.
I've had gray I just used to have a little gray patch, and now it's everywhere now. That's what happens when you get older and deal with. Yeah. All right, so with this market, would you say it's maturing now?
I would definitely think that it's much more mature in the sense that, again, the products are everywhere. There's a lot of competition and it's, I would say, just become more of the normal routine. You're not selling someone on needing to use them. They think, okay, there's a lot of product out there, so it would make sense to use them. So again, in that regard, now, a lot of our messaging has, in the beginning, everything we were doing was very education-based marketing, a lot of routines and tutorials and things like that. And now we're just almost exclusively trying to speak to identity, the type of man that you want to be. Extraordinary men don't have ordinary faces. You weren't born to blend in. Some of these certain things that speak more to that identity again, and really call out the transformation that you want to create. So the marketing has changed quite a bit as the market's matured. And
have you probably narrowed down which everybody calls avatar these days? I still call your perfect client. It's more, we're getting more niched into that, who those people are. Have you seen that? That's over the last 9 years, you guys done more and more of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think in the beginning, it was just we put stuff out and whoever it resonated with, they came back and they ended up buying from us. And now we've definitely tried to be much more intentional with the ads and the creative and the things that we put together, especially in the advertising world with AI and the algorithms. What's super fascinating is if you put up an ad of an older man, like someone 50 plus, Facebook or the algorithms will actually show that to predominantly people that are 50 plus, because it can read and view the image or the video and see who it's looking like or what their features are. So we'll literally just take ads of different demographics, different identities, and we'll put those out. And then those will start to broaden the segmentation of the market naturally based on the way that the ad algorithms work. So we've definitely become much more intentional with how we're going after certain market segments.
I'm smiling here because they were like, so we used to use it a lot for mortgages and stuff, and you'd be able to narrow down who you wanted to talk to. So we can't do that, but algorithms can.
Yeah.
Because they're not discriminating. Is that why? Because that's, I'm just, I was looking for, when I did direct mail, because I was direct mail king in San Diego back in the day, and we could narrow it down exactly who we wanted to hit, what house, what neighborhood, everything in this price point, all those different things. But if we did that on Facebook, that was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. This is such an area of gray bullshit, in my opinion. It's just to your point, the data exists and the companies are using it. They just got in trouble for giving it to everybody for free, essentially, and I think not to get political, but politics had a massive impact on it because it was used in elections and people won elections because of it. And they were like, wait, how do you have access to all this data? And how can you target someone down to a zip code or a community? That shouldn't be available. But what's communicated in the marketing community is the creative now, the advert is the actual targeting, because all the AI or all the algorithms are reading it, viewing it, watching it, and then uncovering who's in it and then showing it to more people like that. So they're doing it on the back end for sure. You just don't have the same level of control that you used to have.
Well, it sounds to me like it's doing a better job. Because you can't have the discriminated people come out and say, well, you're not going to the certain market because you don't want to go to that certain market. No, you're now reading who's in my ad and now giving it to those people who are in my ad.
Yeah. You talk about failure on the podcast, right? Like there was a big privacy update a couple of years ago between the tech companies. And without getting into all the details, it essentially stripped away all of our ability to target people like you're talking about. And so companies overnight basically went from producing a great ROI on their ads to almost nothing.
Right.
And it wiped out a lot of companies, and a lot of people didn't know how to survive. And it definitely greatly hurt our performance as well. Fortunately, we were in a position where we had a good enough ecosystem built and we had developed enough skill that we could figure out a way to weather the storm. But I think the solution has become just building the algorithms and the AI in the background in a way that you don't even need to. And Facebook even came out and said, like, our goal is to where you don't have to do anything except for push a button and enter in your credit card, and we'll go find the people that you want. So it's different, but
I mean, the biggest thing going forward, it's like we were talking about this. I was at Driven last week or week before, and the biggest issue that they're running into is it's going to get to a point where Chat GPT. I search through Chat GPT. I don't search through Google anymore. So that's how can you advertise on Google when eventually and try to get all these leads when they're not going there anymore or won't be going there. And ChatGPT doesn't do it the same way where you can't go the first 5 are all sponsored. They only give you 1 to 2 choices. Yeah. And it's figuring that out and how to do that and how to make sure that you're in that realm. And I think a lot of companies are going to have problems because when I was there for the thing I told you I do a podcast called Helping You Brave, but I also created a veterans benefit company after what I went through. And it's kind of the same thing. And this company's like, well, we got 2,000 leads a day that we go through and then we screen out. We have probably about 500 leads a day we can, send your way. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't want 500 leads a day. That's just too much. But I was talking to Qasim and Aslam, and I said, are they going to still be in business in 2 years from now with all these things? He goes, I don't really know because of the AEO instead of SEO.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting. I think you're hitting on a good point. To your point, I use ChatGPT almost exclusively for my searches now. And I know Google's trying to integrate and figure out what to do with that. But I think it is so interesting. And I think in our lifetime, we will have experienced the greatest technological advancement that has ever existed in human history. And I don't know where some of it goes, to be honest with you. It's like pretty daunting, but entire industries are being shaken up overnight. And being in the marketing community for 15 years, the one thing that I know for sure is the platforms, the algorithms, it all changes, the tools. And so in one regard, the strategy or like the psychology of what works with humans always is the same. But the tools and the tactics and the platforms that you use, those are evolving at a pace that's really, really incredible to keep up with and presents an interesting opportunity, but also a very interesting challenge.
Right. Yeah, I see it totally because I've been in this marketing forever in sales, and if you go back when the internet came out and they said how it's going to change the world, and then all these .coms came and they all went under, and then and I always said it was just another form of marketing, and that's all it is. And everything we do is just another way to market to somebody. It's just figuring out, is that where your people are? I think the people are going to weather these storms are the ones that build the community in their business. And then that community, kind of like you did the live beard, I assume is a community of people that you get in those community. That's how you break into these things. It's the same like the Dollar Shave Club and all those different places. They will go after certain communities of people and niche them down. And then companies come and buy those. And I'm not saying you're going to sell, but I'm just saying that's how it happens. You got to know who your client is and go after that avatar only, and know down to who that person is, what they are, everything about them. And that's who you sell to. And that's kind of what I'm hearing that Facebook's actually doing with their advertising, because they're going to connect the two without you knowing it.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I think in the world that we live in today, creating a community or having a resonance with a particular audience is the most important thing. And we see it, it's like the internet influencers are now becoming, incredibly successful off the back of having attention and awareness. And so whether it's the celebrities that have built, multi-billion-dollar brands off of their celebrity, or the different deals that are done in the ecosystems today, I think everything comes down to how do you create a community of attention and interest, and then find a way to have a conversation. I think one of the best lessons I've learned about business is just business is nothing more than a conversation around a shared experience. And so for me, the experience that I share with my community is growing a beard and grooming and being a man. And so we talk about everything as it relates to that. And it is in some ways just that simple. Obviously, the execution and the strategy and all the shit gets complicated quick, but it's nothing more than a conversation. And the more targeted we can be with that conversation, the more we can create impact.
Right. And the fact of and this is going to get political, but for 4 years, it was not good to be a man. To a certain point. And now that I see that it's okay to have masculinity and have your beard and have everything else like it's supposed to be in the first place. It was the narrative went so one-sided so far that it had to come back and go the other way. Usually what happens, it goes so far one way and then comes back so far the next way and then finally ends in the middle. And I think eventually we'll be there. But it's people, you need to be able to be a guy. Now, not a dumbass guy, but just a guy. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah, because there's some guys who are dumbasses who just don't need to do some stuff that they do. I don't want to hear things about what happened and whatever you did. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear from anybody. So, all right, I won't get off that. You don't need to talk about that. So community, I assume you're growing a community. What's next for your company?
Yeah, I think
besides sponsoring Operation Firewalk, of course.
besides that, I think for me as the co-founder and CEO, I just love the journey of business. And so we are finding ways to expand market reach, building our team, and just always looking at ways that we can innovate products, drive, different marketing initiatives forward. So honestly, like I don't have a big world beating answer. It's just like we're continuing to do the business. I've got a great team. We really enjoy the work that we get to do. I think when we started it was pretty much all about the community because that was all we had was just two guys and our resourcefulness. As the company grew and we started to make a significant amount of money, we started to hire different people. And the truth is we lost a little bit of that community foundation as we tried to focus on business and operations and hiring people. And so we kind of lost a little bit of what I would say is our company soul, if you will, in the terms of like really connecting with the community. And so our main focus this year is getting back to hosting local events, sponsoring different types of men-related charities. Off camera, we were talking about a couple of events that we've done with veterans similar to yourself. So for us, it's really just doubling down on the community, really bringing that back in, hosting some events, and trying to take the digital experience into a physical one as much as possible.
Yeah, because I mean, everything's hyper local now. I don't know if you heard that. Everybody's talking about, focus on your local community. It's all about hyper local, all that. And I can see that. We were talking before with the mortgage industry, people want to come in and see you now. They want, certain things because of how AI is and how things can sound like somebody or be somebody. And you can, you get spoofed all the time. They want to see the person they're talking to when it's a big ticket item. It might not be beard oil, but I'm just talking in general, a big ticket item.
For sure.
I see more and more of that happening, and more the event I told you I was at, they're all looking to buy local businesses, which is a huge push. And it's like, wow, these guys who are, huge Google ad agencies, you'd sell them and all this other stuff, and now looking to buy a freaking HVAC company, just all these companies you wouldn't even think about. And that's what they're looking at because of that whole industry is going away because all those trade people are in their late 50s and there's nobody there to take it over. So.
Yeah, I agree. Our office is right next to the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. And one of my favorite parts about the company is I would say 2 or 3 times a week, someone will come in and they'll be like, hey, we just flew into town. We're here for family or a business trip or whatever. But our first stop or our last stop is we wanted to come by and meet you guys. And they'll come to the HQ. We'll give them a tour. We'll get to hang out. But it is very true that I think, especially coming out of COVID and just that whole isolation and separation that took place, I think, and to your point with AI, like half the time I don't know what's real online anymore. The only way to know what's real is to experience it in person. And I do see that trend as well. And I think we're really trying to focus on building community in that regard. And it's cool. Like we've had so many people. We had a barbecue last year and we did a charity 5K, and we had 100 people fly in town from all over the country to hang out with us for a weekend. And on one hand, I'm like, that's crazy to me. And on the other hand, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I totally get it, because there's stuff I go, especially with the radio and the stuff that comes up from that and all the other stuff I do. And I'm like going, I wouldn't do that, but other people, and it's a great, giving back is really good. It's fun. I mean, that's why I do the Operation Firewalk, and to help out veterans, just because I see the problems that we're going through. We're losing 50 veterans a day, and first responders are right there. So those are two industries that really need help. So
yeah.
Mink, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Ed. Thanks for having me.
How do people find you? Do you want people to find you?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a beard, go to livebearded.com and check us out. And then personally, I've got anthonymink.com and Anthony Mink on all the socials. And I post some content around business and mindset and share some of the case studies of what's worked for us. So happy to help anybody that thinks I might be able to.
Now, do you have a podcast?
I do. Yeah, I have a podcast. It's I put it on hold for a little bit because we've going through some changes, but entitled to Nothing. We've got that show that's coming back shortly. Good.
I mean, be careful putting on hold, because the listeners just don't come back right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put this on hold for 6 months because I got tired of people not talking about their failures, because it's important to talk about that. And the amount of drops, I'm still haven't gotten back to where I was. And that's just the things, because people, I'll go on to something next. It's that whole thing. There's no long-term memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was talking to a guy today who's been doing a daily podcast for the last 5 years. And he's at 1.5 million downloads a month.
Wow.
And
consistency, baby.
It's a history one too on top of that.
Consistency is crazy.
Exactly what it is. That he goes, you need to get to a certain number. I got to 900 and he's got over 1,000 something episodes. And he's like, the only way you can get there is daily. That's the only way you can get there in a period of time to where you get to a point where people start listening more. So the weekly ones just take forever to get there.
Yeah, it makes sense. Volume.
Yeah. Yep, I think so. Mink, again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's Enter Edison podcast. I want to thank Anthony Mink for sharing his journey from humble beginnings to building an 8-figure brand. Remember, real growth comes from learning through our failures. If you want to connect with Anthony or to check out Live Beard, just visit anthonymink.com or livebearded.com. Until next time, keep embracing your inner Edison and keep pushing forward.